Whenever you want to scale, sometimes people think they need to be louder and flashier and do more. What you need to do is to be the truth.
Korey Rowe is a globally recognized strength and mobility specialist known for helping people build bodies that are strong, capable, and built to last. You've also had long-term partnerships.
Only.
I
am not playing the short-term game. Everything that I'm doing in this season of my life is building things that last and helping people to do the same.
With over a decade of experience and features in Forbes, Vogue, LA Times, and Essence, he's built a platform that reaches millions through movement-driven educational content.
The fittest will survive, the people who are most adapted.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
We're asked to reject the things that got us here because it won't get us there.
What would you say are the top 3 opportunities that you see the most clearly in our industry? There's a shift happening in the fitness industry right now where the people who last aren't just the ones who are great at what they do, they're the ones who understand how to build around it. Today's guest is someone who understands both deeply. Let's get into it. Korey, welcome to the Sweat and Equity Show.
I'm so excited to be here. It's a pleasure to be sitting beside a fellow builder. What you are doing here with the Sweat Equity show is well needed. It's never been more needed than now, where so many fitness professionals, wellness professionals are trying to navigate through this minefield of next. How do they stay relevant and how do they continue to do what they signed up for, which is to really help people live stronger, more vibrant lives. So I feel very honored to be here and congrats to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I really couldn't think of a better person. I'm like the business mind, the trainer mind, and I'm excited to just talk about growth. And one thing you always say is let's build, right?
Let's build. And never stop.
Yes. And I think so when I think of you, I think of just the different seasons of your business, the different types of things that you offer to the world when you serve. But as we look at this fitness, the shift in the economy, AI technology, all of it, I just think there's going to be so much that we can talk about.
Absolutely.
So before we get into speaking about how the world is shifting and all that comes with that, I would love just to paint the picture of where things are for you present day.
Absolutely.
So if you can kind of set the foundation for what your business currently looks like what is the makeup of your business when you think of, I guess, diversification. I feel like you have like a portfolio of businesses underneath yours. So if you can just share that would be great.
Absolutely. I think looking from the outside in, it looks like I'm doing a lot. But at the core of it, which is important to sustain diversification, is that you're doing what you're best at and you're doing something that's repeatable, that's scalable, that can be sustained. So from the outside in, I have a robust online platform. I reach millions of people sharing what I believe to be a strong approach to living, stronger, more resilient lives with mobility and strength leading that. I have thousands, tens of thousands of women in one, program that I've partnered with Dr. Jennifer Ashton, and we've now scaled that, and that is growing because there's such a need within that population for women to be educated about strength training and how do they continue to live as they progress through the decades, right? Live stronger, more vibrant lives. And then I have the care method, which has coaches and nutritionists working intimately one-on-one with clients, giving them the high-touch experience, very intimate, making sure that everything is cut specifically to their needs, highly personalized training. And then when you zoom out, I love the idea of being in person and engaging with people. And no, I do that at scale through large classes from anywhere from 50 to thousands. I have a class coming up that's 2,000 people that we'll be leading. So those are take on the form of retreats and events and classes. And at the core of it all, I still, consider myself a personal trainer. That's the DNA that bleeds into all of my ecosystem. So I do have a few clients that I work with one-on-one, and I think it keeps me very connected to the individual whenever I'm building something at scale because I get good feedback from that. And then around that, it has now expanded into, food products. I have, food products, CPG products that I'm now developing that's launching soon. There's real estate that I now invest in. There's other things that I've taken on that's outside. And all of it is to support what I love to do, which is to help people live healthier, stronger, more vibrant lives.
I love that. And when you think of all that you shared right now, which one would you say are the biggest drivers in your business?
The biggest drivers in my business comes down to helping people move better in whatever form, whether that be programs at scale that are done asynchronously or is programs that are done in a more intimate way, like one-on-one. And then I have the partnership sides. I work with brands that I trust. I work with brands that I'm a first user of. I like to say one of my principles for doing any sort of endorsement is like, would I engage with this brand anyway? Would I engage with this brand whether or not I'm being paid? Would I engage with this brand if this brand had no interest in me? And if that is the case and I'm doing it consistently, then I see the partnership as an opportunity for me to share something that's impacted me positively that I'm ecstatic about. So I have a brand partnership. So but the core of it is helping people move better and feel better and live life on their terms. How I like to say it is like, the goal is to help people build bodies they can trust, build bodies they can rely on through the decade. So that's the main driver. And then everything else supports that. And I'm happy that I have the opportunity to be so diversified.
Yeah. And so even as you're speaking about diversification, I love that there's this mix of online. I love this mix of you also prioritizing being in person.
Yes.
The brand partnership side of things. On the brand partnerships, I'm curious how you determine what you say yes to when it comes to bringing that brand into your ecosystem and connecting with your audience?
Before I say yes, I have a strong no response to most things.
Okay.
I have a good sense of, what I'm trying to accomplish today and over the next 5 to 10 years. There may be some change, the needle may move based on what's happening in the industry, based on my likes, based on how rapidly I'm growing, how challenges I'm having. But I have a strong North Star. Yeah. And that's rooted in my personal constitution. I want to be aligned with brands that are actually doing good work, that products are standing up to scrutiny and are truly helping people. I think the people behind the brand is just as important. It's sometimes even more important than the product itself. So if I have an interaction with a brand and the people that I'm interacting with don't feel like we share the same mission or feel like we can't get along in a way that is going to be pleasurable and do great work, then that's a no for me, even if the product is great. So it's the people, it's the product, and it's the mission. Like, what are we doing here? That's one of the questions I ask whenever I sit with a brand. I said, what's important to you? I know we're looking at this as an ambassadorial level or a representational level or a partnership level, but what's important to you? What's the end goal? What's your mission? And if I can align with that mission, and if the legalities and the terms, support that, then, my partnership lead and I also have outside, visibility on it. I'm not just looking at my own perspective. I have a team that will help me, shape the decision. So those are the criterias, and that's my process in a nutshell.
Yeah. And I love that. I'm like grinning ear to ear because I feel like it is so rare when I have conversations with other creators / business owners. Obviously, working with brands, especially when it's a big one, is a very sexy thing that can look on your resume or just who you're working with. And
absolutely.
I love the intention, and it's something I resonate as well. And I know for you, you've also had long-term partnerships, and I think
only
correct, only. Okay, and long-term as in a year or more? How are you?
All my partnerships have been over a year, over 2 years, 3 years. Obviously, it had to start at some point. But I start the conversation with continuity.
Yes.
Everything that I do, I want to see myself through time engaging with it, building my family, building my community, building my business, building my mindset. These are all very futuristic, lifelong engagement. I live a very narrow life, but very deep. In what I choose to commit. So one of the things, we don't have to get married on the first conversation. That's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But there should be a pathway. I am not playing the short-term game. Everything that I'm doing in this season of my life is building things that last and helping people to do the same. And I want to see, how can I grow? Does this relationship have enough capacity to fill, or to grow with me? As I grow, and can I support, on the other end, can I support this partnership to grow? Yeah. So it's not this one-sided, it's very symbiotic. Can I help you? So if it's a brand that I don't think I can move the needle forward on, if it's a company, then it makes no sense because there's no continuity on their end and vice versa. There won't be any on my end. So it's long-term, I say a long-term game with long-term people.
Yeah. And this is actually reminding me of, so I just released an episode called Get in the Room. So it's this focus of the importance of being in the room when you have these conversations
It's amazing.
with brands, right? And I actually would love for you to speak to the importance of that, because there's something about someone just seeing how you operate online as an influencer, as a creator. But when you step into a room
Yes.
and you bring your confidence at that table and
Yes.
you ask questions and they realize that you are far more than someone who posts content,
Of course.
it changes the game on how serious they take you. It changes the game on what opportunities they give you. So I would love for you to speak to that, because I'm pretty sure you do that pretty damn well.
Absolutely. And I want to appreciate being in any room. I feel deserving of being in the room, but I don't take it for granted. And I prepare to make an impact when I'm in the room. And I think before you get in the room, it's all the things that you're doing before, when you're outside, when you're thinking about it. If you're going to be in the room, around the table, a part of the conversation, what do you bring? And how are you moving the needle forward? How, through proximity, is everyone better because you are there? Right? The idea is that we have builders with different skill sets coming together under a joint umbrella, trying to accomplish something. What are you bringing? And I think before getting into the room, that's where the work is done in the dark. Before there's a spotlight on you, before there's a microphone, before there's a partnership, before there's a contract, are you taking the time to make sure that when the world turns to listen to what you have to say, you have something worthwhile to say?
That's right.
You have something to give. So for me, being in the room starts from being outside the door and being in the dark and not being seen. So when I in the room, I'm not confused about who I am and what I'm trying to accomplish. And I'm also not confused about my deficit. I understand that there's room for me to grow. So a part of being in the room is so that I can upskill myself, so I can grow through proximity, so I can learn, so I can change, so I can be challenged. But while doing so, there's enough value that I bring in the room that still secures my seat at the table.
I love that. And as you think about all that you are doing to get into the room, I'm curious what type of support you have as you think about what's happening outside the door to get into that door. Do you have a team? What type of support do you have to make that happen?
I have a team around me. I have a team around me from home.
Okay. Yes.
from home to business to spiritual. Right. I'm a believer. I'm a Christian, and I'm always like seeing what God's purpose is for me. I have a strong team. I'm very blessed to have put the team together that I've put together. They're best in class in every department, and I have a home that challenged me. I have a wife that sees my gaps and speaks to it and supports me in my growth. And I think you need that. And I have peers who are winning, who are being challenged, who are, setting the bar high, who through proximity I'm growing. Yeah. And I think all of those environments help to prepare you, because it gives you feedback on the things that you're great at, but it also gives you feedback on the things that you're not so good at. And those are the things that, if brought into the room, become a liability. That's where you see someone step in the room, but they don't last because their liability got in the way, because they didn't work out those details before getting in the room. So I have a team in every department, from operations to partnership to content. I have mentors that I sit with. I have a life coach that really helps me walk through my own challenges, counseling, all of that. So I think it makes you a rounded individual, so you can show up and, be of service.
Yeah.
When you have the opportunity.
I love that. And, kudos for getting those people in your life, especially you got to delegate. So
Yes.
When it comes to you having a big vision, it's like, what does it look like to be able to move things forward? I am curious, as we're still on the topic of your team, what are you typically looking for when you are bringing people on to work with you and help bring your vision into reality?
That's important. I initially try not to, I have a criteria for the role.
Okay.
So there are certain technical check marks and skill sets and competence baseline. I think that's a non-negotiable. There's a basic entry point where we need to at least meet that mark. There may be a learning curve that's necessary, or some upskill or some development, and we're okay with that. If someone is able to learn and to be nimble and to grow, we can figure out how we can, go with that curve. So it doesn't have to mean that you're exactly ready to go. So there's that criteria. Beyond that, it comes down to vision and alignment. I'm in the phase of building, and I need to be able to work alongside someone in the role that can see my vision, that can be excited about it, and that can see a future for themselves in a certain timeline for it. That will determine how invested they are and how committed they are beyond the line item and description of the role. Yeah. And another thing I would say, there's a spark that goes off in someone's eyes when you share your vision, and that intangible element where you can quantify it in a resume. I think that's when you know you found your people, you found your tribe, and I'm always looking for that. Because I would much rather go to bat with someone who, has that spark, who has that enthusiasm, who sees where I can be and where we can be, as opposed to just checking in and clocking out, than someone who's the most competent who lacks that. Yeah. Because I don't think they'll be able to survive or be committed. So it's the technical aspect of it, or does our values align? Do they truly believe in what we're building, and does it excite them? And are they willing to grow? Do they have a growth mindset, right? Yeah. That's where they can fill their gap and they can be upskilled.
Yeah, I love that. Let's also talk about the realities of bringing on people who may not be aligned.
Yes.
Can you give, obviously no names or any of that, but an example of you hiring and then needing to let someone go because there was an alignment? What did that look like, and how did you navigate it?
I've been very fortunate with that in my personal ecosystem, where I haven't had to let go of many people.
Good.
I have worked in other spaces where I've brought people on. One of my resume history point was I was director of operations for boutique fitness, and I would hire trainers, or I would hire staff, and they would come in and I would have to let them go. They look great on paper, but in the culture, on the job, they just weren't what we needed. And sometimes it was just all on them. We were clear about the role. They just didn't represent themselves in a very honest way. And we found out that later on. And sometimes they're great, but they're just not great here. And we have to have that honest conversation. And in two ways, what I've done is I've had the honest conversation. I said, like, this place isn't serving you. You're not going to succeed here. And the reason why I brought you on is not just for our objective. It's also so that you can have a place where you can thrive. And I don't see that for you. And based on what I've observed, I would point them to places or ways that I think they could grow to be able to do that. So how I handle that conversation is very honest. I take responsibility where I made a misjudgment. I think you can't put a horse in the ocean and expect them to win. And if you choose to do that, it's not the horse, it's you. You've just made a wrong match. Yeah. So I take responsibility when I've done that. And then there are other instances where, there's a path where you can help people to grow. They may not be the right person now because they weren't clear. And that's where you put them through a developmental process, and you hope that they'll be able to make the change that they need to get to where they need to be to thrive, and also have a good experience, and also to accomplish the objective that you bring them on. But I'm very candid with the conversation. If we need to, put an end to it, then, we'll put an end to it, and hopefully you set them free to win somewhere else.
That's right. I could tell you worked in corporate of some capacity.
There's some history there.
Yeah, well, I think it's important. What I always say is the corporate skills pay the bills, because there's so much that you learn as a leader with you being director of operations, that now that you're running your own business, and you have for quite some time, all of that bleeds through. It's transferable into what it looks like to build a team, knowing that not every decision may be a perfect one.
Yes.
But I sense a lot of humility in you as well, in taking ownership of...
It's necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary. It goes both ways, and I think it's feedback for the person. And if you don't honor that, then it becomes this constant streak that infects all your decision making. When you acknowledge it and when you address it, we're all fallible to some degree. And to the degree that we have a healthy relationship with that reality, and humility that we have to fix it, is going to determine how successful our organization or companies or institutions are. Yep. And especially when you're in a leadership role and people are probably not as willing to speak up and to point those out. So you have to have that internal sort of reflective approach to find it for yourself if no one is going to speak up.
Yeah. Okay, so you have a team. Let's get into growth.
Yes.
I'm curious, we'll do growth and then just get into like, where is this industry at and what we got to think about, right? So I'm curious what's top of mind for you as you've shared the different parts of your business. What's top of mind for you for what you want to focus on and what you want to choose to expand on with what you're doing now? Where do you see the opportunity?
The opportunity is doubling down on what's working and making it the best system that the industry has access to.
Okay.
So right now, we are doing a tremendous job at courting attention and also then fulfilling the expectation on that attention. So that's creating a content ecosystem where we're putting out content that's valuable, that's impactful, that's instructional, primarily on the category of joint health, mobility, strength, conditioning, and then leading people to solutions for movement pathologies that they have, or, say strength and conditioning deficit that they may have, whether it be increasing bone density or increasing muscle mass or improving VO2 max, or also to just working through any movement dysfunction that they have, knee health, hip health, shoulder health, all the stuff that tends to fall apart as we move through time. We have asynchronous programs, and as I mentioned, we have coaches, myself involved, that are helping people. So it's connecting people with a need to the product, doubling down on that and getting more of that out through content, and then obviously following it up with fulfillment is the core of it. And everything else on the peripheral, in terms of the partnerships that we do, the events that we do, not less important, but they are ran in a joint way with other teams. So most of my attention needs to be in-house because that's where the book kind of stops with me primarily. And I think doubling down on that, and the reason why, whenever you want to scale, sometimes people think they need to be louder and flashier and do more. Sometimes what you need to do is to be the truth and double down on what the real need is. So when you look at everything I'm doing, I'm expanding in Asia, we're expanding here in North America, we're expanding globally with the CARE method, because we just recently launched a partnership in Asia that's growing, that's doing amazing. And, I'll be traveling there, say, probably bi-monthly or quarterly to continue to grow that. But really what I'm doing is just helping people live better lives. So everything at the end of it, and I said this when I was in corporate, and I say it with my team, we're connecting people to the help that they need. And everything that we do needs to be able to make that clear that we are the preferred choice, because we deliver and we have the credibility and we have the authority and we have the evidence behind it to say, this is how we help. So for me, it's just working through the pipeline, getting rid of the noise, and having a cadence and a flow so we can be prolific enough in sharing that and pointing people to that. So it's a lot of optimizing systems for scale, so that when the growth, happens, or the continued growth that we're experiencing, we can sustain it.
Yeah. And how are you thinking? So let's hone in a little bit on the content ecosystem. When you say there's this content ecosystem you're creating, what's included in that?
Well, primarily at the core of it is identifying, which we already know, but it's putting together systems and programs to help people identify, diagnose their movement pathologies, and then putting together solutions to help them to solve it. That's from movement standpoint. Also for persons who have, say, goals along the line of body composition, it's really helping them to have the nutrition that they need, the movement that they need to support that. So from a content top of funnel, one is getting the movements out, getting the reels out, getting the carousels out, getting the CTAs out, getting the VSLs out, getting the things that really send the bat signal to say what we're doing. And then obviously making sure that we have the best in class movement library and support systems for that. So that is a constant flow. It's about removing friction, so making sure that the editors are on point, making sure that the narratives, in terms of communicating what we do is clear, so there's no confusion. A lot of person get lost in the sauce because people just don't know exactly what they do. You could have the best professional who is unknown because they don't have this message that gets to the people that need it. So we have to make sure that we're always stress testing our narrative and making sure that it's clear. So a lot of it is producing that, and a lot of it get technical. But the idea is getting the message out to the right people and then making sure that when they do find us, that we help them better than anywhere else that it could go.
Yeah. And who are the right people for you? Because I know you're talking mobility and hip and what does your audience look like? And I'm curious how you think about reaching those audiences, assuming that they range from different generations depending on where they are in their lives. How do you think about that?
I've been fortunate in the sense where my audience is very diversified and are all seeing results.
Okay.
Sometimes you find that persons are very niche and they need to be. Fortunately, because of the partnerships that I have, I've been able to reach different audience. So for demographically, and this is a bit, it's not exhaustive, but it's more of a high level. The partnership that I have with Dr. Jennifer Ashton, we're working with women between the age of 45 and 80.
Okay.
Throughout the nation and beyond. Right. And these women are very much concerned about making sure that each decade feels and looks the way that they desire. And we have a strong program. We have thousands of testimonials of transformation right across the board, from blood work to movement to injury to strength, bone density. It's amazing, so moving to see women living such healthier lives. And then the partnership that we have in Asia, we're helping dancers and athletes and movement professionals cover their gaps. Because a lot of times they don't have the cross training that they need. And what gets in the way of how they perform is the fact that they develop an injury and now they're out of the sport. So the KR method now comes in with ABA, which is American Bar Association, that's expanding in Asia, particularly now we're in Shanghai and then growing out of Shanghai. We're helping movement professionals safeguard their ability to move by giving them the foundational strength and mobility they need so that they can use that as a firewall to protect them against injury. So that's growing. And then I would say the third audience is pretty much anyone who wants to live pain-free, want to focus on joint health, mobility, and optimizing their body composition through age, throughout the decade. And that's where like the one-on-one coaching comes in a little bit more intimate way.
Yeah. What is standing out to me, just because I have some thoughts on this and I would love your thoughts. You do partnerships, collaboration to scale your impact, right? As you talk about ABA, as you talk about what you're doing with the KR method. What I see a lot in our industry, and I'm curious for your thoughts, is I don't see as much collaboration. It's more competition happening. And I'm curious for you, how do you go about the collaborations and partnerships, and what do you look for to make a call on this being in alignment? And then generally your thoughts on competition in the industry, because I know it's a whole lot, but wherever you want to start first on it, it's just standing out to me as you talk about how you're able to scale your impact.
Absolutely. I'll first talk about competition.
Okay.
I think there is the presence of competition, but it becomes less relevant when you're at your best. It becomes less relevant when you're doing the things that you need to do and you're optimized. And when you understand that it's not a zero-sum game. A lot of times the zero-sum game mentality says that if someone has, then I can't. There's a world where we both can. And if we look at the statistics objectively, there's more need for help than there are qualified helpers. So someone in our position as a movement professional or as a talent, as an influencer, there are more people that need help than the people who are helping. There are more fires than there are firemen, so to speak. So the idea is that not being so concerned about the market and the market's ability to deliver on our desires from a business standpoint is maybe you're not good enough. Maybe you're not positioned properly. Maybe you're not optimized enough. So we skip the personal responsibility to be better and then be concerned about the competition. You're not even in the finals yet to be concerned about the competition. Right. You need to get to the finals, then you can talk about it. And most persons who get into the finals, they're okay. They're fine. They made it to the NBA.
Yeah.
They're taking care of their families.
Yes.
They're okay. So I would say get better first before you worry about competition. Your competition is bettering yourself primarily. And if you do that consistently, then you'll be all right and you'll be helping the people you need. So that's my idea on competition. And the last thing on that is I'm happy that they're great movement professionals and they're great content creators and they're great business minds. Oh, they're helping because we need more of that. The world is better when we have better people building better products. And if your goal genuinely is to help people, why aren't you excited that there are great people out there doing it? right? So I'm inspired by great people doing great work. I want more of them. And so the last thing I take two positions. I'm building a great product and I'm clapping for the people that are building great products. And my idea on partnership bleeds perfectly into that. If I see other people building great products, and I can be a part of that, and we're aligned for the same sort of metrics I use to decide as my team. Does our vision align? The work that they're doing, do I think I can move the needle forward? Do I have the bandwidth for it? Is there some sort of cohesive narrative about the work that we're doing and the synergistic nature of it? Is it worthwhile pursuing? Then let's build. Let's build. Let's do it together because we're better together. I realized about 5 years ago, when I decided that, wow, I'm at a standstill. The standstill was that I've gone as far as I can go on my own. And I needed partnership. Not in only the obvious form where it is publicly announced, but I needed support. I needed relationships. I need people in key roles to cover my blind spot to help me grow and build. So I've gone as far as I can go on my own. So partnership for me is the only way for the next frontier, and not dilutive partnership, synergistic, organic, meaningful, purpose-driven partnership, and true partnership, not just association.
Yeah. And what is true partnership for you?
True partnership for me is a respect for each other. Yeah. Each other's perspective, each other's skill set, what the person brings to the table, a symbiotic nature where there's mixing of creative DNA and perspective, and ideas are entertained and they're better together than they are apart. Because sometimes there's association where it's a net negative to one. It's like the shark and the remora. In some ways, you're not quite sure, is this a net positive for both? Is it a net positive for both of us? Sure. Are we creating something that otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to be created unless we were together? Yeah. In that way, that gives that a unique value proposition. And do we have, for me, a criteria is like, do I have the opportunity? This is maybe not a true definition of partnership, but it's a criteria for how I engage in partnership. Do I have the freedom to continue to express myself outside of this relationship?
That's right.
Do I have ownership of my creative outlets? And it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no non-compete, but it can't be so suffocating that my entire ecosystem now depends on this joint relationship. It should be an amplifier in between us and not a negative impact on the doors that I can pursue that are important to me, that are necessary for my growth outside of the partnership.
Yes. I just want you to pause because the way gems are being dropped right now for us. The passion, the clarity, there's just so much that you just shared here that I know is going to resonate really well. And thank you for expressing it the way you do, because it's just something that has been top of mind as I think about what it means to grow. And I think oftentimes when people think growth in this industry, it is doing it in solo silos.
Absolutely.
When some of the best changes I've seen and impact on the business is collaborative efforts.
Absolutely.
So this is a perfect segue into talking about the future. Okay.
Let's talk about it.
I am curious where you believe the current state of fitness is and where the future is going, for starters.
It's never been more obvious to fitness professionals and never been more obvious to the people receiving the help of fitness professionals, institutions, entity, that we get one body to live in and we need to take care of it. And there's a spotlight on health and wellness and longevity and feeling, looking, and moving our best. There's a clear desire. That's why it's $1 trillion industry growing at a rate that we've never seen before. And it will continue to grow at a rapid rate because we get one bodies and we need to be able to take care of it. We can't trade it in. We can only upgrade it. And we upgrade it through wellness practices. So where it's going, the industry will continue to grow. It's not a fake bubble because it's a true need. Health will always be a priority. It's being democratized in some way. There's greater access to information, greater access to help. There are more options. It's being stress tested from an evidence-based standpoint. The things that we believe, are they holding up to scrutiny and to testing? And people are questioning how exactly they need to be helped. Do they need to be helped through AI? Do they need help through a one-on-one person? Do they need to be helped through institution in group setting? They're trying to figure out exactly how they need to help, and that's creating emerging markets. It's creating it's creating opportunities for companies and individuals to stand in and be a clear, raise their hands and say, "Hey, I'm an option." And it's also making some entities and individuals not as important or not as relevant as they once were. We see dinosaurs dying, figuratively speaking, and they have to figure out how do they find themselves as a go-to choice option in this new landscape. So there's a death and there's growth happening in that space. Where I think it's going, I think we need to zoom out and not be so caught in the weeds. We need to execute in the weeds on the things. We need to learn, we need to upskill, we need to know what the trends are, we need to figure out where people are going, what their interests are. Those are in the weeds. But I think we need to look at it from a macro standpoint. What is happening? It's the idea of the fittest will survive. That's what's happening on a macro scale. And what the fittest means is in the micro. So the goal is, how do we become better? How do we become more relevant? How do we become more impactful? And that looks different based on what your business is and based on who you are and based on how you're positioned. You can't use someone else's playbook for next. You have to use your playbook for next, because it's going to take you from your point A to your point B, not someone else's. So it's like taking Google Map direction, but you're in different direction, different location. It doesn't work. Yeah. So there's an audit that needs to be done for next. I think before we talk about next, we need each individual, each company, each entity need to say, where am I in this landscape? What are my assets? What are my liabilities? And then where do I want to go? Where do I want to go as a personal direction? Who do I want to help? How do I want to help them? How do I need to serve? What do I need to do? And where is the industry going? The combination of where do you want to go and where the industry is going. And then that will allow you to find the Goldilocks zone about how do you get to next and to remain relevant. And that's a personal audit. I look at that as a rubric, but at the end of it, it is the fittest will survive, the people who are most adapted. We're asked now to adapt. We're asked to be nimble. We're asked to be fragile. We're asked to be more curious than ever. We're asked to break the systems. We're asked to reject the things that got us here because it won't get us there.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
We're asked to reject the things that got us here because it won't get us there. And that takes humility. And that takes a radical shift and transformation. And it also takes people not understanding it. Mm-hmm. But having the vision to break what's working. No, there's a saying that, don't fix it if it's not broken. Sometimes if you see the future death of it, you need to get ahead of it. Yeah. And you need to break it before it breaks on you. Yeah. So you can have something else in place, as the landscape shifts.
That was so perfectly said. And I can't help but think about when I look at across all different industries, and the systems that have been created for years. The fitness industry is absolutely one where it is dated.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I feel like that breakthrough, this is truly going to be the survival of the fittest, because there are a lot of people who still operate for what worked 40 years ago, 50 years ago, or at least still trying to be relevant in that way.
Yes.
And I'm curious for yourself, what are you thinking about when it comes to building and adapting and changing and shifting when it comes to your business? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're integrating AI into our business. We're integrating AI into research. We're integrating AI into workflows. How I describe it to my team is I want us to be the most AI-powered system so that we can leave the true human task to humans. So we can truly be there to do the things that only humans can do for it. So it's just like anything else. It's not just AI. It's also, personal development, personal growth. I'm challenging myself as a leader to grow. How do I see myself? How do I see my business? How do I see my clients? What are their needs? Where they know? How do I see my audience? Where they know what's important to them? So there's a technical aspect of it. We're working on the technology, making sure the technology supports it. There's also the needs assessment of like what's still important to the people that I'm serving.
That's right.
What's still important to them? What do they need from me now at this stage based on where I'm at and based on where they are? So there's that needs assessment, and also too challenging myself to become the sort of person who can lead my company and lead my team and lead the people who rely on me into this next phase of their life and next phase of growth. So there's this personal transformation that's happening. I think we should look at everything. For example, I mentioned AI, but I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole on that. But it is just, the goal is we're trying to create systems for me that help people. And we want to just say, what can help us do that in the best way possible? We're seeing these things as tools. So for me, it's finding the tools, becoming the person, and having the team that can consistently help people build, more resilient bodies and live healthier, more vibrant lives. And it's consistently saying what gets us closer to that and what doesn't. And the things that don't, then we have to get rid of those. And the things that do, how can we have more of that and refine it?
Yeah. What do you think for this future that leadership needs to look like?
Leadership needs to look like service. It needs to look like truth. It needs to be reliable. It needs to have a sense of humility, where we are okay to admit what we don't know, but we are resilient and unrelenting in pursuing the right path forward and discovering what that could be. I think leadership needs to be privately held accountable, not just publicly celebrated. I think there needs to be a greater harmony between the things that are done behind closed doors, the things that are done in board meetings, the things that are done in private, how we manage our inner thoughts and our private lives. I think there needs to be more congruence and a true line for leadership, where we are more, I would say, homogeneous in who we are. And that's a challenge for everyone, because I think the things that we get celebrated for in public often are from the things that we've done in private.
That's right.
So the people who practice in the dark, the people who do things when no one is watching, those are the people who normally get applauded publicly. Conversely, leadership that crumbles in the spotlight are leadership that had a different lifestyle in the dark. I think we're now called to do the right thing, and whether or not we believe no one sees. Because ultimately, if you put that on a long enough timeline, it becomes evident. So being the truth, I think, is what leadership looks like. Being the truth that serves. And that means that being the truth as a professional, being the truth, standing by what your product says, your product being the truth, your systems being the truth, your company being the truth, and having it have a heart to serve. Yeah. People want to be served, and they want to be served with things that are honest and true and does what you say it would.
Yeah. And as we talk about survival of the fittest, that's going to be a big one, right? How you lead, how you serve, it's all going to trickle down.
Yes.
And it's going to be interesting to see what winning looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything now is a stress test. It's a stress test on the best. Whenever every ecosystem wants to survive, the ecosystem itself wants to survive. The individuals in the ecosystem are part of that makeup. They want to survive, but what will come out of this will be the best products, the best companies, the best help, the best service. Yeah. And it's stress testing everything that's not. And I think that's a positive. Yeah. It's a positive because then there's a net good on the other end of it. And if we have that framing, then we remove some of the fear that's associated with this transition. Because a lot of the fear that comes with transition is that, will I be relevant? How will I survive? How will I stack up? And if we live too much in that space of fear, it robs us of the creativity and insight we need to become the person and to build the companies and to build the solutions that we need. Because fear isn't creative. Fear causes you to retreat. It causes you to hide. It causes you to shun. What we want is the excitement and the enthusiasm to know that there's something great coming out of this and there's a role for you to play in the ultimate build on this. There's an opportunity. There's a huge opportunity. There's never been more opportunity than there is now. Yeah. So seeing that, having that perspective, it really, injects you with energy and creativity and insight. And there's something to gain at the end of this, as opposed to trying to just merely survive. It's more than survival that we're playing for here. Mm. We're playing for the ultimate outcome on both sides of the field, in terms of growth for the people who are in the space building things, and also to the people on the other end, experiencing our products and our service. They will also be getting more refined and better products and services than we've had historically.
Yeah. And as you think about fitness and wellness practitioners, entrepreneurs, what would you say for people who are building for this next? Because let's build, right?
Yeah, let's build.
What would you say are the top 3 opportunities that you see the most clearly in our industry?
I think there's an opportunity for people who felt they needed more infrastructure to help on the playing field, because now there are more support for that. There are persons who needed to have raised capital previously to get things done, to build a team, to get their message out there from the outlets that distribute, say, content or gets you in front of your audience. A lot of that has been democratized. So getting to the right people is a lot easier. Also, supporting yourself and building the products is a lot easier. So I think for those persons who may have had an infrastructural limitation, no more than ever, they have more support for that, whether that be capital or human capital or financial capital or know-how knowledge deficit, they have that. So you'll find out there are greater people who, with great ideas, with enthusiasm, with the work ethic, they know have a shot that maybe they didn't before. So that's an entire industry that can emerge. Another thing I would say, I think there's also the backlash, and there's like a need for those persons who can truly identify what the human needs are. Mm-hmm. What are truly human? What are the true human desires? Because the more we move away from human interaction, the more there is this need and this hunger and this yearn for human connection. And for those persons who can provide a solution for that, who can make life more tangible, who can make experiences more immersive, who can foster greater connection, who can help people feel seen and heard, and help people feel human and cared for through institutions or through environments and through products, that's an opportunity. Because for the problem that is solved, they created another one. And business is all about identifying a problem and solving it the best. So there is that need. So for the people who can truly deliver on what's truly human and have people feel more human and have humans feel more connected and seen by other humans and build relationships, there's an opportunity. That's an entire industry. And the other opportunity for me, I would say, it's more of a personal and institutional one. I think we are collectively all asked now across all industries, no matter where you are, country, geography, business, all levels, we're all asked to do an audit. Mm-hmm. There's no one that's not thinking about next right now. There's no one that feels that they have it completely figured out. Everyone has a question mark about their viability at this point. Some may be more confident about their viability, but everyone has a question, because if you don't have a question, then that surely means that you won't be viable. So everyone has a question. Yeah. That sort of audit is a good mirror. Mm-hmm. It's a good opportunity for those persons who genuinely want to show up and to be their best and to create something meaningful that lasts. They now have the necessity to do that. They can't put it off. And that necessity is the mother of all great inventions, as the phrase says. To know you have an opportunity through necessity to create something better than you've had before.
Yeah.
And I find that that's when we get the best from ourselves. When it becomes a must and a need, we have the opportunity to truly tap into that part of ourselves that probably wouldn't have otherwise be accessible. So I'm excited for what comes out of that on a personal level and institutional level, because it is now a need.
Yeah. And what would you say is your question mark? What are you still figuring out in this season to prepare for the next?
I'm trying to figure out, that's a good one. And I'm trying to figure out who I am at my best. You know, everything that I do has been a tool to mine the best out of me. Whether I challenge myself physically, whether I challenge myself in business, to grow emotionally, spiritually, it's always to find out who I am at my core. I believe that if I'm truly free and I truly develop that and I can give that to the world, all my needs are taken care of and my mission is accomplished, and the people that are on the receiving end of that gift are helped in the way that only I could help them. So everything that I'm doing now is a constant pursuit of who I am, not who I was told to be, not who I believed I was because of the environments that I was in, not who I needed to be because that's what was appropriate and that's what made me palatable for other people. Who am I? Who am I at my best, at my freest? Who am I at my most creative? Who am I without the vices? Who am I when I'm focused? Who am I when I'm spending the time in the way that I need to spend it on the things that I need to be, when I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right things consistently? That's what I'm pursuing. And that question mark becomes clearer every time I show up in alignment with the knowledge I have of myself. And I'm excited to see what that looks like up until the day that I take my last breath, because I think it's a receding shoreline. And I think I'll always have that question mark because it's ever unfolding. But I'm interested to learn more and more about that person.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I felt it. I felt that. And this is it's a perfect way. I think that's so powerful that I'm like, okay, we gonna end it on a who am I? And we're gonna switch gears really quickly. This has been, oh my goodness. You got me about to question my whole life. Okay. So we're gonna switch gears. We're gonna have a little fun. This is called Sweat and Equity. Wow. This or that.
This or that.
So I'm gonna give you two options. Without overthinking it, I want you to select what that option is, and then maybe in 1 to 2 sentences your why around it. Okay. You ready?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
Okay. First one: learning more or executing more?
Executing more. I think I've learned enough to execute now. Yeah.
Okay. Monetize first or build an audience first?
Build an audience. Build interest before you try to monetize. Serve first before you try to ask for a paycheck.
Partnerships or independence?
Partnerships. I think the right partnership has an element of independence and collaboration. And I think that's the Goldilocks zone. You know, you go further together.
Mastery of craft or mastery of business?
Mastery of business for where I'm at now, because my business has moved beyond my craft.
In-person training or online platform?
I would say in-person training for me, because it connects me to the human, that I get to see the individual. That informs my online, because now I think about the human in the crowd as opposed to just thinking about the crowd and forgetting the human.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah.
Revenue first or brand first?
I would say brand first. A brand commands the revenue, and there's no sustainable revenue without a brand. So I would say brand first.
Okay. A few more. Clear structure or creative freedom?
Clear structure. Where I'm at now, order and systems. I think a lot of trainers, are artists and creatives, and they don't can't create a business because you have no structure. So for me, order and systems right now, that's what scales.
That's what scales. Follow the market or shape the market?
I say shape the market. When you think about shaping the market, you think about your unique proposition within the market. You're not a puppet on a string. You're a player in your niche. And it's more so niche than market. It's like finding where you can serve best.
Optimize what exists or create something new?
I think optimize what exists. I think optimizing what exists for those persons who have a strong niche product that serves people, then sometimes you just need to be better at what you're doing. For me, I need to be better at what I'm doing. So optimizing it, making it better, nurturing it.
Let's take it home. Focus on retention or focus on acquisition?
Retention for me. And it's because retention leads to acquisition. If people in my line of business, if people want to stay with you, they'll tell people. If people want to stay with you, it means it works. And if people want to stay with you, people want to go somewhere where they want to stay. And that ultimately leads to acquisition.
Yeah. Korey.
Yeah.
You did that.
Yeah. Oh, we did that.
We did that.
We did that.
That was some great questions. Listen.
We did that.
Thank you
great. Thank
so
you.
much for joining. And I would say the last thing, I'm just thinking of the longevity of this conversation, honestly, because there's just so much that many people, I'm sure, can unpack, so many questions they'll ask themselves after this conversation, but inspiration is on a whole nother level. And I'm curious, I would ask you to give a message to yourself, the future Korey. Let's do 10 years out Korey that you would love to share.
I say thank you for taking care of the older version of you by doing the things you needed to do now. There's an older version of all of us deep inside that are depending on the choices that we make today.
Here we go.
And I know this is probably not a part of it, but I have to say it to you. I think what you're doing is amazing. You do it with such heart. You do it with such clarity. You ask questions that shows that you see the person. You get a sense of who they are and what they want to accomplish. I can tell that this isn't a hobby for you. I can tell this is a calling for you. You're built for it. I can tell with your team and the fact that they're so invested. And it means that you have delivered on their expectation. And you've done things in the dark in leadership roles that cause them to be so enthusiastic when they're here on a set. This is a conversation worth having, and never stop building.
Never stop building. Thank you. I receive. Yes. Thank you so much, Korey.
Yeah, thank you.
Woo!
Yeah.
And that's a wrap, friends.
It's a wrap.